All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight and listening to our presentation. My name is Riley Wilmart, and I'm part of the Program of the Environment, under which I conducted this research project on how urban food stewardship enhances community aid and access to culturally relevant foods in the city of Seattle. So this work is important because food governs our everyday life, whether we're aware of it or not. And having access to healthy, locally sourced, and culturally relevant food is not a privilege that everyone is afforded, even though it is a right. Throughout history, many cultures' connections to the land, and thus their food, has been taken over by dominant colonial power structures that has ultimately contributed to the food insecurity of many that we see today. Currently, food apartheid affects urban areas significantly by leaving neighborhoods without a local grocery store or market to buy their food, leaving them to find affordable alternatives that are not satisfying or self-sustaining. Urban farming has shown to have massive impacts on urban communities by providing spaces where fresh and culturally relevant food can be grown and served to them, therefore bridging the gap that food apartheid creates. To explore how urban farming can achieve this, I further asked the questions of how can or does urban agriculture enhance food justice in Seattle, and how can culturally relevant food options be made more accessible through urban agriculture? To answer this question, I interned with a local nonprofit organization called City Fruit as a community engagement and outreach intern for the quarter. City Fruit aims to connect Seattle residents with locally grown and harvested fruit from the thousands of trees around the city by harvesting fruit from the trees in people's backyards or in Seattle public orchards, and then donating the fruit to partners who will provide it to communities that may not have otherwise had access to it. Through this internship, I was able to make connections with a handful of individuals who work within the urban agriculture scene in Seattle and conducted interviews with them to answer my research questions. My questions differed based on the individual's position and experience, but all had a set of similar questions regarding food justice and availability of culturally relevant foods. From asking these questions, I received many similar responses as to how urban farming connects communities with each other and their food and allows for the cultivation of culturally relevant foods. A big pattern I saw between my conversations was that when the community is aware of their opportunity to get involved in food production, participation is found to be much higher. Many urban farms are situated in the middle of the neighborhoods that they're serving, which attracts more attention from residents and encourages them to volunteer. In my conversation with the manager of the New Start High School's Shark Garden, Taryn Coworker, she had said that a resident of the neighborhood said that she had met more of her neighbors while working at the garden in the past 4 weeks than she ever had in 16 years of living in the neighborhood. And again, in my interview with Nurturing Roots founder, Naima Clark, she shared that members of the community will oftentimes walk by the farm and orally request certain crops to be grown, or even sometimes will donate seeds that they have to be grown on the farm for everyone. Kaylee Dang from the Danny Wu Community Garden also expressed how, if the budget allows, residents will ask for specific seeds to grow at the beginning and end of the seasons, and are then provided with them to be able to grow and harvest during the growing season. In regards to accessing culturally relevant foods, paying attention to the demographics of the communities that are being served is crucial in order to meet the needs of the residents. Taryn Coworker from the Shark Garden explained that they do research on the neighborhood they are located in to better understand the demographic of people living there and what types of crops they should be planting. And as previously mentioned, taking requests and seed donations from community members is a huge way to meet the needs of residents as well by planting crops that are requested by community members with specific cultural preferences. A huge means of being able to grow crops that are culturally important but do not necessarily thrive in the PNW climate is through climate mimicking by using greenhouses to grow hot crops. Naima Clark and Nurturing Roots explained how they have utilized their greenhouses to be able to grow traditional African crops that thrive in hotter climates, but are able to be grown here with a manipulation of temperature. The significance of these results show how urban agriculture can provide spaces for communities to come together over food production and cultivation. This can be made more accessible by increased awareness of these opportunities so that each person has the knowledge and ability to volunteer and take part in growing their own food. Enhancing community outreach efforts would be integral to this mission. Furthermore, making land available for communities to manage directly is incredibly important in uplifting food sovereignty for those who have faced food insecurity the most. BIPOC communities and communities of color have been reaped from their knowledge systems, especially when it comes to food cultivation practices. And the only way to fully remedy that harm is to provide spaces of land where they can have full autonomy over what food they grow and how they grow it. Many of the participants I interviewed mentioned that their farms have plots of land that are free or low cost for community members to plant and harvest their own food. Combining this with the development of agriculture technology, such as the greenhouses to mimic different climates, broadens the possibilities of urban agriculture to uphold food justice and food sovereignty for all. Ultimately, there must be more investment from government dollars to be able to increase the effects that urban agriculture has on communities. So by framing urban agriculture as a public good that serves the interest of everyone, we can begin to further enhance food security and uphold food justice for every individual. I want to end my presentation by mentioning that this subject is extremely important as well as extremely nuanced, and I am unable to give a full picture of what urban agriculture and food sovereignty is in a 5-minute presentation. I have attached a handful of useful articles and links that have guided my research and thinking regarding food justice and food sovereignty, and encourage you all to check them out and learn more. I've also attached some useful links to some of the farms or organizations I interviewed, as well as other prominent and pertinent urban farms in Seattle that are worth checking out. I would like to thank my faculty advisor, Annie Nguyen, as well as the rest of the team at City Fruit, my 2 cohorts, Justin and Hongzi, my faculty advisor, Eli Wheat, and my extremely supportive partner, friends, and family for your endless support. And thank you so much for listening to our presentation.